Hey everybody, it's Mark Schultz here, and we are live with another edition of Recovery in Aviation. I'm really excited to be here today with you with my co-host, Larry Little, former retired Boeing expert in digital transformation. Good morning, Larry. How are you?
Hey, Mark. Good to be with you again today. Kind of a special edition of Recovery in Aviation today on a Thursday. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really like to come here and to be able to share good news with you and information about recovery. Larry keeps reminding me in all of our broadcasts that our point and purpose in doing this is that we want to present ideas and innovation that people can focus on that would drive us toward recovery in aviation. Larry, you're always good about reminding me of that.
You know, Mark, there's so much gloom and doom that we read every day, whether it comes from government or regulators or IATA about how bad things are. And I think everyone in the airline industry knows how bad things really are with load factors. But what we really want to do today is talk about where are we going and how do we recover and how do we change the shape of that recovery and that recovery curve and really get people flying again and feeling safe flying again sooner.
Yeah, it's really about looking at what's happening. Yeah, it's really about looking at what's happening around us and understanding how it's affecting our business, innovating and coming up with new ways to be able to drive recovery. And it's leaders in aviation, like everyone that's on this call, on this program today, that are going to drive recovery faster than if we just waited for things to happen around us. So, each week we try to bring to you leaders in the industry, and we try to bring to you new information and interesting ideas. And we're going to do that again today. Let me get a couple of things out of the way real quick is that, this is a live broadcast. And so you will be able to have questions answered live. We monitor the questions and we have the ability to be able to interact with you and to be able to answer your questions live. So post your comments, below this broadcast, and we'll do our best to answer your questions live. Also, I wanted to ask you if you'd help us out and to share this broadcast with your audience so we can get maximum attendance. So with that, let's go ahead and jump in and get going and start our conversation. Join in the conversation with us. Hey, we have a really great guest with us today, and he actually has a background. He trained as originally trained to be a commercial pilot, and then decided to change direction and become engaged in computer science and to be able to work on implementation of IT within the industry. And he focused on aircraft configuration software, E-enabled aircraft. He formerly worked for Lufthansa Technik, and then he went to work for Etihad and was involved immensely in the entry into service of aircraft such as the A380, the 787, the 747-8, and the A350. But really what he has is he has a passion for IT and optimization of businesses and engineering and all the things that go with helping us to make our businesses successful. And he's based in the United Arab Emirates. And so we're going to be able to get a perspective today of what's happening in that region. So I'd like to bring him into our broadcast here today. And we have Marc-Christian Reichle with us today. And Marc-Christian, welcome on the program today.
Hello, Mark. Hello, Larry. Thanks very much for having me.
Hello.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, great to have you with us. I really like bringing people on the program that are from different parts of the world because it really helps us get a firsthand perspective on what's happening. And so where are you based today, Marc-Christian?
I'm sitting here in Abu Dhabi. So I'm just a few hours ahead. So here's evening. Outside's already dark. So.
Okay, great. And how long have you been in the UAE today?
I'm in the UAE for roughly 7 years now.
7 years, great. Okay, and Marc-Christian resides there with his family. I've been to his flat. He has a great place that overlooks the Corniche there in Abu Dhabi. As a matter of fact, one time he took me to watch the Formula One hydroplane races. Down on the water down there over the Corniche. It's a great place you have there.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Excellent. So it turns out that that Marc-Christian and Larry and I worked together. Oh, actually, Larry and I worked together at Boeing, and Marc-Christian was involved in the entry into service of the 787, and that's where we actually first met. I think you came over for one of the 787 e-enabling conferences or the startups, didn't you? Wasn't it?
I attended some of the enabling conferences from Boeing. That time, I think was the key speaker of one of them on the last one. And yeah, there were obviously more interaction between Etihad and Boeing at this time during the EIS, running A380, 787 at the same time. So it was a very interesting time.
Yeah, definitely was. Definitely. Well, we want to jump in and have a discussion about people are always interested in what's happening in the region. And so, Marc-Christian, can you tell us a little bit about what's happening in the UAE right now with respect to, the coronavirus? I mean, are there changes? How is it affecting the people, over there in the region right now?
I mean, it's I guess pretty much the same like in other countries as well. From a high perspective, so there was some kind of a curfew which started around end of April, end of March, sorry. And I mean, yeah, looking out of the window, we have a great view on the Corniche, and it was from one day to the other, it was empty. So this was definitely a significant change to before. So people were asked to stay at home. Public areas like parks, playgrounds, everything was closed. The malls, which are pretty, let's say, familiar here because it's usually pretty warm outside, so people like to go to the malls. Everything has been closed. There's a curfew from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. This was already eased by the beginning of Ramadan, which is now roughly 2 to 3 weeks ago, to start at 10 p.m. Still to 6 a.m. in the morning. But they also started now opening up the malls, at least a few of them, under strict restriction, obviously. And I mean, they try to kind of bring normal life step by step back, while obviously observing how COVID is developing. What surprised me a little bit, I was not, let's say, I was expecting that there might be some impact in the regard of supply. Like you go to the supermarket, some things might be gone. Stories we heard, I'm originally from Germany. So Germany, I think everyone went for toilet paper. I have not observed something like this here. So this is something which was really, let's say, for me, pretty amazing how this was done in the background. All the infrastructure, the processes, were running really very well. And this was handled, I mean, amazingly from my perspective.
Yeah. How affecting the people? Oh, go ahead, Larry. Go ahead.
I think one thing we're seeing in the Middle East and pretty much around the world is airlines looking forward to really talking about getting significantly increasing the number of flights, whether it be Qatar or Etihad or Emirates or even Saudi, talking about a recovery in June or July where a significant amount, getting a large number of airplanes flying again.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the airlines are eager to fly again. Etihad wanted to start flying again, I think a week ago, which was then postponed.
Yeah.
Then the date was kind of thrown out around June time frame to start operational again. Just today, I read the date that by tomorrow, a route will be opened from Melbourne to London via Abu Dhabi, obviously. But the passengers will be not allowed to leave the airplane while stopping here in Abu Dhabi. And this will be like a weekly service. So you can just go there, you can book your ticket, and you can fly. There might be obviously restrictions in regards of entry, the country you're flying to. Like maybe you need to have a visa, you need to maybe quarantine yourself afterwards or something. There might be additional limitations, but at least the route gets opened up again.
Marc-Christian, you're spot on. I read a lot or see a lot and talk to people a lot that airlines want to start flying again in the June or July time period. But one of the biggest barriers is, can you actually get into that country? And what sort of proof do you have that you're healthy to be able to get into Vienna or Lisbon or New York or Los Angeles? So, where airlines want to start flying again, there's still that barrier that's controlled by the individual countries about letting people in. But it seems like airports are trying to do everything they can to make the passengers feel safe as well.
Yes, and to be honest, I think it's a little bit also confusing to find out the exact details. I just scanned the information today, the news, and also Emirates announced that they will start operating commercial flights by May 21st.
Yeah.
To I think it was 9 destinations. Toronto I think was one of them, and Chicago, I think. And then another news said that Canada and US that they are extending their shutdown. So I was a little bit confused. Okay, one airline says they start flying there, and on the other hand, you get information that they are extending their limits. So it's a bit, I think quite difficult. It's not just book a ticket, you go there, and you can enter the country. You might have some interesting experience.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I'm here in Seattle, and I don't think I could drive to Vancouver, Canada. I'm certainly I don't think I could get into Toronto. So even if the airlines want to fly, there's still that governmental processes or barriers in place that we're going to have to navigate through.
So, hey, Marc-Christian, what are you seeing happening at the airport? What is the airport doing to promote the recovery of getting people to travel again?
That's a very good question. To be honest, I don't know exactly how they, let's say, promote people traveling again. Obviously, there is a big demand for people which just want to go back home because they got stranded here, or maybe they say they would like just spend this a difficult time with their family at home. I mean, UAE is I once heard the figure around 80% of expats or foreigners here. So they have the family somewhere else on Earth, and they would like just go there. Maybe some mother, father, wherever, maybe some people, our family members are sick, so they want to go there. And just India, the flights to India, the repatriation flights just started, I think, a week ago. And they are completely full for weeks in advance. So there's a huge demand for people just going back home.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to listen to an interview from the head of the Dubai airport, and he talked about how the airport was like I think in April 97% down in terms of traffic, but they're starting to see more people come into the airport. But he also talked about it's going to be standard practice when you go to the airport that you have your temperature taken and that you wear a mask. And so it's starting to, these common things that you see across, I mean, I think the Middle East is kind of leading this as kind of the hub of the world. But he talked about, those standard procedures are just things that we're going to, become more comfortable with.
A couple of days ago, there was a video from Abu Dhabi airport where they showed some new installations about how the check-in will be performed in the future. I mean, future means when traveling, I guess, gets reopened again. And it's like a tunnel. You go there, you look into the camera, you maybe wave your passport, and then your temperature gets checked. If you're above 37.5 degrees Celsius, then personnel will be called, and you will let's say guided to a different place. While if you're fine, then I guess a green light comes up. You get checked in for the flight, and before leaving the tunnel, there's some disinfection spray to make you safe. So it's I mean, the video looked a little bit futuristic. Let's see. But yeah, usually the UAE, I would say, they are, let's say, at the head in these changes and implementing these rules. It's, I guess, also the environment where you can simply do things like this. Yeah.
But I just think it's so interesting that every day or every week, whether it be airlines making changes or airports making changes, there's a lot going on to make people feel comfortable flying again.
Yeah, we've seen some big impact to those airlines over there too, like Emirates, for example. We knew that they're making some changes to their fleet, and I think I saw an interview by Tim Clark where he talked about the A380s and how the future of the A380s isn't very positive right now. Marc-Christian, have you heard anything about Emirates and their fleet changes or anything that's happening with the A380s or anything like that?
The fleet change, to be honest, I was not following up so much on it, but to me it's pretty let's say kind of clear that A380 it's on the reducing route. So other airlines like Lufthansa, I think they are now grounding the last A380 for them, and working on a conversion to even to a cargo version. But as a passenger airplane, eventually we might have seen the last couple of months where this airplane is flying. Emirates, with having over 100, I think 112 A380s, I assume that they will operate them a bit longer until they have transitioned to a new fleet structure. But yeah, I think the high days are gone for this airplane.
Yeah, that's difficult. How about Etihad? How's that affected Etihad? They also have A380s, right?
We have Etihad has A380s, beside other airplanes, obviously, as well. They are running on an efficiency improvement program on the A380. But personal opinion, I also think the days are kind of counted for this airplane. Fuel prices are low at the moment, but it's still, compared to others, it's not efficient.
Well, let's dive down into some of the things that you were doing. Now, Marc-Christian, you worked at Lufthansa Technik previously, and you also worked at Etihad. And I know, with focus on computer science, with focus on IT, that you have been involved in a lot of entry into service activities for those airplanes. So tell me a little bit about what you were doing your entry into service for the E-enabled aircraft.
I mean, with Lufthansa, I started let's say, setting up the E-enabling processes for E-enabled airplanes. So for A380, mainly looking after the aircraft software configuration, which was kind of a new topic when these airplanes entered the market. And also the software management as such. So also implementing the safety procedures to ensure that the software is safe to load on an airplane, and to ensure that the software cannot be altered on the way from the engineering desk to the cockpit when it gets installed. So this was with Lufthansa beside other projects as well. Then I joined Etihad, again, entry service project A380 787, which is 787, let's say, also coming a new dimension of enabling. And after the implementation, preparation for A350, which is still ongoing, and other projects, like implementing RFID solution within the airline to optimize some processes for automation to improve the data quality which is available.
So I think it was really interesting that you mentioned local software, because Mark, we've talked about what does it take to get all these parked airplanes back into service, and we think about engines and landing gear, but from a software standpoint, man, that's a big task to make sure all the software on an a parked A380 or a 777 is up to compliance.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar managed like normal hardware parts. So you have your frequent software which gets changed, like nav database. So you have your schedule for this, but yes, needs to be loaded. On the other hand, I mean, looking from let's say kind of at the positive in this situation, now you have the airplanes. Most of them are grounded, so now you have time to implement updates, which otherwise would be extended for months until you have this ground time long enough to load software. It's not a simple update at home with the browser. Maybe takes 5 minutes. On the airplane, it easily takes half an hour, or there are even bigger ones which take several hours. So now it's a great opportunity to get your aircrafts up to date.
Yeah, I know some airlines have really great tools and processes for keeping track of compliance on software parts, and others don't. Mm-hmm. And it's a key part of getting the airplanes back into service.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, part of our conversation here always includes giving people the opportunity to ask questions. And so I wanted to just take a quick break and introduce a couple of questions that have come up. One of them is a little bit of a go back, but the reason I'm doing it is because I want to encourage those of you that are watching. We have a lot of people online right now. I want to encourage you to submit your questions. Actually, with my old friend back there at Etihad, Nicholas Zika. How are you today, Nicholas? Glad to see you online. Nicholas submitted a question. He said that I've heard that there's been discussions. Well, let me just read it here. He said he heard there's been talk of passengers being required to have certificates of fitness to fly before they can board an aircraft. Is that how do you see the role of technology in facilitating this process so it not become a burden on passengers? So maybe we just, in taking one of our questions, we've all seen certificates of health being a requirement in the past. And Nicholas is basically asking, hey, maybe there's technology that could be implemented that could optimize that. What do you guys think?
I mean,
Go ahead.
Here in the UAE, I think it should be pretty easy because everything is managed by, we have the so-called Emirates ID. I think in the US, pretty similar to your driver license. Everything is kind of linked to your driving license, right? So here it's your Emirates ID, and if you go to the doctor, they just, let's say, read in or scan your Emirates ID, and everything gets linked to it. So ideally, or let's say here, it could be easily, you go to your doctor, you get the examination, they tick a box in the system, say, okay, it has been checked, it's good to fly for the next, I don't know, 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever has been defined. You go to the airport, anyway, you have to present your ID or your eye scan, and they could call up this information. So here it would be quite easy. Other countries, different restrictions, different jurisdiction, might be, let's say, more burden or obstacles to get this one implemented.
Yeah, Nicholas, I think a great question, and I think we kind of all see where this is going. You're going to have an app on your phone, that kind of reflects the current state of your health. When have you been vaccinated? When we come up with a vaccination, or when have you been checked? And you're going to need that as part of your e-passport to be able to get through health security at the airport.
Yeah, I think this makes perfect sense. I mean, in the past, if you have traveled for any time in the past, we had a yellow immunization card that you had to carry with you, and I used to have a yellow fever, immunization record in order to be able to get into some countries. And it just makes perfect sense, Larry, that we would either have an app or that, who knows, maybe it could be embedded into the RFID chip, onto the passport. I don't know if that's possible. Yeah.
This is what you had?
What? Oh yeah. That's exactly what I had. You have your yellow card right there. Perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. Just in case I want to travel today, I have. But there's going to be an app to do this, right?
Yeah, you're all set.
And hopefully these applications will be interactive, whether it be your e-passport, your boarding pass, your health card. I mean, Nicholas, I think that's where obviously where we're going.
Yeah. How many people have touched that yellow fever card there, that immunization card? So,
I mean, it would be interesting also about, let's say, kind of having a standard, because maybe which is good from perspective of the UAE to travel might be not acceptable for the destination. So you go there, and they still require you to go to quarantine. So
yeah,
thinking about also, I mean, duty travel is one thing. If you have a meeting and you have to stay in quarantine for the first 2 weeks, then I guess it's not worth flying.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think those things are going to have to get worked out. Both finding electronic ways to do this. That was a great question, and getting standards between different countries on what's acceptable. That's really going to be a challenge, to be able to do that. So that was really a great question. I wanted to encourage others out there. There's a lot of people watching. I would appreciate it if you guys would continue to ask us questions. I have another one that came in here from Klaus Sonnenlieter from Luftronics. They're a drone company. They're actually going to be on our program here in the near future. Marc-Christian asked, how long is the ramp to get this full fleet operational again after this extended period of time of storage? So what do you guys think about how long it'll take to get the fleet completely back up and running, during this time of storage?
Boy, that is a really hard question. I think Marc-Christian and I are both kind of shaking our heads. That's a really tough question. And, we talked about mobile software and all the things that it takes and all the processes that it takes. And I think we'll see the narrow body fleet come back. That's what I'm seeing. Certainly in the U.S., the narrow body fleet that's been parked and also at Ryanair as well, coming back probably toward the end of the summer. But some of the other airplanes, they might never come back.
I think it's also dependent on. It's also dependent on some other factors in the background. So it depends on your staff. What have you done with your staff? Are they on, let's say, leave, long-term leave? Have you reduced your headcount? Do you have enough resources to bring your complete fleet back in the short term? maybe your fleet is up to date, but maybe you don't need all your assets to fly again, because I talked to other colleagues in other airlines, and they said for them it's kind of it's founding a new airline. The information about the routes, how many airplanes you need, which kind of airplane you need, what is the travel demand, how often do you fly to which destination, all this information is at the moment kind of, let's say, worth nothing, because they really need to start more or less from scratch to look into the demand and to have to define the proper, to use the proper tool for the proper to serve the demand. So
Yeah,
it's eventually, I guess the airlines might have a luxury problem of having more airplanes available, but not able to immediately bring them back into operation, because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think that's really the point. Is that demand? The demand for aircraft is going to drive, how fast the aircraft go back into service. And I personally think that there's a lot of aircraft on the ground, and I think that that they'll be able to be returned to service as fast as the demand for those airplanes, comes. I think that the requirement for an airplane will be the first question. How many airplanes do I need flying? And the second question will be, how quickly do I get them back up again? So I'm not so certain it's going to be a technical problem getting them back up in the air as much as what it is the demand for the airplanes.
There's a couple other dynamics going on as well. Ryanair is flying what they call ghost flights, so that they didn't park the airplanes. They're flying around empty, because they recognize that passenger demand is going to increase, and it's just more efficient to keep flying the airplanes even if they're empty. So you keep them compliant and keep them, you don't have to go through all the parking and storage procedures. So that's going on, and I think a lot of airplanes are being returned. That a lot of airlines who are struggling are returning leased airplanes back to leasing companies, and they're able to redeploy those airplanes in places that the recovery is happening quicker, like Asia.
Yep. So let's continue our discussion then, and I want to continue to encourage you to jump in questions, and we'll try to answer them online here. Thanks for submitting those questions. And Marc-Christian, one of the things that you focused on in your career is really focused on efficiencies. You've really focused on, how do I create efficiencies, in an operation? And we've had a lot of guests on this program, and so many people are looking for, how do we innovate? How do we come up with new ideas and new ways to create efficiencies? But the reality is that some of the things that we have not done in the past create efficiencies in our operation become even more important now. Marc-Christian, how does the role of creating efficiencies, play into operating our airlines under these new rules, these new guidelines?
I mean, having joined the aviation industry for enabled airplane, I had to say I got the tools in my hand right from the beginning. Talking about providing or delivering the software to the airplane. One is bring it manually. I mean, someone has a physical media and goes to the aircraft and loads the software, compared to other mechanisms available from the manufacturers, like called gate link, by sending the software through Wi-Fi or through 3G to the airplane. So I mean, with Lufthansa, it was the manual process. With Etihad, we implemented a gate link, so the software was transferred digitally to the aircraft. So that was definitely already seeing an efficiency improvement. Also, I mean, looking into the processes around, in some documentation, it's written that software should be treated like a physical part. But you have different, special characteristics of software where you can send it, as I just mentioned, digitally to the airplane. So therefore, you can kind of skip some process steps which you could not skip, obviously, with the physical part, and you can gain these benefits.
Larry, you've spent your entire career, focusing on trying to implement digital, or at least half of your career. I mean, this seems like a really opportune time for people to change over and implement some digital efficiencies, isn't it?
You guys are spot on. We've spent the last 20 minutes or so talking about the passenger experience and how to get people flying again. But you know what? Mechanic experience is going to be totally different going forward as well. Mechanics are going to start to embrace these new technologies or digital tools. I think not only because of efficiencies, but because of health and to facilitate social distancing. Every mechanic is going to have an iPad. They're going to have a collaboration tool that they're able to interface with other people within the enterprise. And those are just going to be standard ways for mechanics to be able to do their job. So, just like the passenger experience is going to be different for all of us, the mechanic experience is going to be different. And I just think people are going to start to embrace the tools, Mark, that we've been talking about for years, that are going to bring not only efficiencies, but make people feel safe wanting to come back into the workplace.
What do the two of you think have been some of the obstacles that were preventing people from implementing more digital? Marc-Christian, what has prevented people from implementing more digital in the past?
I think in the past, one thing was obviously you have processes in place. So let's say the old IT statement, never touch a running system. So people were used to the processes, just don't touch them. This is maybe something right now. It's maybe an opportunity we have, which we might not get anytime soon again, where I guess people are very open for change, for the better, willing to change themselves, willing to change processes. And on the other hand, with having most of the airplanes on ground, the operational pressure to the operation is also, let's say, drastically reduced. I would say most of the areas. Some areas are pretty busy still, but it's kind of an ideal scenario where you could implement these changes, where you might have some resources available you would not have during normal operation time. To use them and to just look into the processes, see, okay, what is done step by step, and also to analyze, okay, what is the added value? Do we really need to do this? Or is it something which is done because it was done since long time, someone started with it, but the information, in fact, is never used downstream. It's somewhere collected and it stays there, but not adding any value. So I think it's potentially now the best time to do this kind of homework, looking to the processes, get rid of let's say kind of old junk, and optimizing them. Also looking into new technology which is available for automation. Larry just mentioned it already with kind of an e-tech lock, where in the past the information was prepared in a digital system, then it was printed on task cards, handed out to maintenance. They were filling in the comments. Later, you have had a team which was copying everything back into the system. You had so many people touching this information, and we're all humans, so we do errors, mistakes, happens. And then you have another team looking into the mistakes, trying to figure out to resolve those. So this could be kind of pretty simple resolved nowadays. The solutions are out there. Now might be the best, the ideal scenario to implement it. While I accept, or I definitely understand, it might be difficult to start now something from scratch, getting funds approved in a situation where airlines, obviously, the main task is to stay financially afloat.
Larry. Well, Larry, you and I have both seen it.
Mark, we've talked about the 4 pillars of digital transformation for a long time, and the 4 pillars now are more important than ever to be able to come out of this successfully. The 4 pillars: commitment by leadership, people, tools and processes, and IT. And Marc-Christian, you kind of talked about all those things together in terms of commitment. And now's the time, for leaders to kind of look around and take advantage of what's going on. And I think people are wanting to do things and wanting to make efficiency improvements. And the tools and processes, we've talked about them over the last month. How it seems like every week there's a new tool or process that we can put in place to help come out of this. How we can recover from what's been going on.
Mark, you asked me about the challenges for the optimization, and especially when it comes to enabling. What I observed is that it's it's quite often the case where you have like a new functionality which is possible to implement from airplane side and let's say software side, but you have different stakeholders at the end which are consuming this let's say this added value. And for, let's say, for 3 different department, it's adding value, but it's just, let's say, 1/3 of it's just covering 1/3 of the cost, and it's usually pretty tough sometimes to bring all the different stakeholders around one table and to agree to sponsor these kind of projects. It's not seldom where it's end up where just one is pointing at the other one, says, I have a bit of a benefit, but the other one has the benefit as well, so he should cater for it. That's something I was confronted with quite a few times, and it's pretty difficult to overcome these, which also might be the current situation. The pressure might be big enough to push these things, let's say, to overcome these things, bring people around the table and say, okay, yes, we do it.
Yeah, I think that definitely the current events surrounding us are going to accelerate the movement of digital and solutions, and so I think that definitely we're going to find that the acceptance of these things and these tools that we've been trying to implement for so many years are going more and more implemented, due to the need for efficiencies and due to the people's greater acceptance of digital and technology, due to us being forced into doing that. Gentlemen, I have a lot of questions, and I want to continue to go back to our audience because people ask questions during the process. And so let me just throw a couple more things out there. There's one question here from Rohit Rizal. He says, do you think that global aviation travel demand is quite low, even though the airlines will start to fly again? He has a bit of a skeptical, traveler's perspective. So even though the airlines are ready to fly again, what do you guys think about the demand? Do you think people will get back flying again? And what do you think will cause them to be comfortable to fly again?
Mark, you and I have talked about load factors and what are the load factors going to look like over the next 18 months? And there's so many, I think, factors that will play into that. And government and opening up countries is so important. People feeling comfortable flying again. I really think people are going to feel comfortable flying again sooner than later. So but are the countries going to actually be open and allow people to come in?
What do you think, Mark? Yeah,
just again read an article where Emirates, I think, they mentioned in an article that they have installed these HEPA air filters, which are cleaning the air, filtering out 99.97% of bacteria and viruses and dust and whatever. So I think more of these kind of information about these protective measures need to be mentioned to the customers so that they feel safe to travel again. Personally, as mentioned before, with duty travel for a meeting, but you have to stay in quarantine 14 days at your destination, and when you come back, maybe you have to stay another 14 days in your home country. This is not paying off. These things need to be, let's say, kind of normalized first. Comes back to, say, vaccination. If this becomes available. We don't know yet. They say sometimes maybe beginning of next year, where it's more, it's a kind of realistic to expect something like this. I hope travel comes back a little bit earlier, obviously, but people need to be reassured that it's safe to travel. In regards of changes during travel, personally, from experience from the 9/11, I would not be surprised seeing the demand in first class, business class, dropping again further, and more people, let's say, traveling in economy class, which would be also kind of served by tourists, because I think while now during the last couple of months already, we have seen these tools like Zoom, like Teams, all the other applications which are out there, and I think we have seen, okay, hey, it's not working so bad. So yes, you can have virtual conferences, you can have virtual meetings, and it's not like a couple of years ago where this was very cumbersome. So yes, now you can do it. There are options out there. So I would not, let's say, be surprised if you see this one as a standard nowadays and forward. While I don't see, let's say, if I would like to go to vacation, nothing can can give me the experience of walking through the sand, lying under a palm tree, and hearing the sea, I have to go there. And I think this vacation travel is coming first.
It'll definitely come.
Yeah.
It definitely will.
And
Hey,
maybe something, sorry, just to interrupt you, we have seen here already more people are looking forward for staycations. So from Abu Dhabi, they book like a hotel in Dubai and just go there over the weekend just to see something else, not their own four walls, after having stayed a couple of weeks in the apartment, just to have a change. Yeah. So people are really, they're looking forward to go somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Tasting the taste of freedom again.
We definitely all want to travel. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a couple more comments from some people here. One of my friends at Dassault Systems, Kirill Strakov, he says there are barriers that exist. One is closed borders. Definitely, closed borders have to be open before people are going to travel. And two, we've been talking about this, people's concerns, about being infected. And so all the things that we've been talking about today really are, addressing how do people feel more comfortable traveling. And one of the things that we've seen is, airlines coming out with programs to better communicate what they're doing. Like you said, Marc-Christian, like I've seen videos from Etihad talking about how they're cleaning aircraft, from Air Canada, from Delta. And so definitely the airlines are looking at how do we make the airplane, safe for people to fly on, and how do we better communicate to people that we are concerned about keeping it safe and what we're doing in order to be able to do that. So
Mark, it's not just the airlines. We've talked about the whole experience, suitcase packed to suitcase unpacked. The airplane experience is just a piece of it. I've also seen videos from Hilton and from Marriott and from Airbnb about, okay, this is how we're going to clean your room. This is how we're going to make you feel safe once you are there and you're unpacking your suitcase. So it's that whole sort of travel value stream, if you will, that I think people have to feel comfortable with.
Definitely important. And, Marc-Christian, good point. I think people are going to be doing a lot more domestic, surface travel initially. But, like you said, people want to travel. People want to go to places. I have so enjoyed going to Dubai and Abu Dhabi and, being involved in seeing all the different things, in those countries, is that doesn't go away. I still want to go there. I still want to take my family there. I still want to go there. And so those needs that we have to travel and go places, are there, and they will continue to be there. That was a really good comment.
Guys, think about this. We've been dealing with this for what, 2 months, 2.5 months? And already people are starting to want to travel again, and they're starting to understand all the things that it takes and all the precautions you're going to have to take and be comfortable with it. And to me, that's just happened really quickly.
Yeah. Hey, let's read a question from project engineer, avionics and IFE, Julian M. It says, how fast do you see the recovery of aviation? What will be the new status quo in traveling post recovery? And how can it be sustainable with social distancing requirements and all these things happening at the same time? Marc-Christian, do you want to kind of comment on that? How long do you think the recovery will come from your perspective?
I'm definitely not the expert. I would say we just, let's say, kind of repeat what I have read. And this is they assume that it will take until 2023. In regards of the separation or the social distancing, I just read an interesting article today from IATA where they say, okay, they are supporting the request for wearing face masks, while they are not supporting the request for having the middle seat empty, which was interesting to me.
Yeah. Now, Larry, you've done a lot of work in looking at the projections. What are your thoughts on the timing of, there being higher load factors in the future?
Well, there's quite a bit of variability, I think, in what's really going to happen. And it's probably going to happen sort of in stages. And personally, I think it's going to happen. The 4 Ps are going to happen. And the 4 Ps are panic, the 4 stages: panic, planning, processes, and proceed. So right now we're kind of in the panic phase. We've been in the panic phase about what's going on. And then we're starting to do a little planning about, okay, this is how we can get people flying again. This is how people will feel more comfortable. This is what we're doing to the airplane. We're going to take all those plans and we're going to make changes in procedures, and then we're going to go forward. Now, how long is this going to take? I think domestic travel, probably 6 to 9 months. International travel, it's anybody's guess, because I don't think you can really predict out that far. But panic, planning processes proceed.
Yeah. Now, Larry, given those timelines for recovery, just this week I was sitting with one of the people I work with, and we were looking at their projected revenues over the next year in their business. And I did not like the big hole that I saw in their current business. And so we immediately turned to discussing, okay, if the reality is, we're processing that. If the reality is that it's going to take that long for things to recover, then it's critically important that we re-looked at our business and said, what do we do differently in order to be able to bring new revenues in, given that I can't change maybe how fast things are going to recover from a flying perspective?
No, you're spot on, Mark. It's the opportunity to think about, how do I change the shape of that curve? There's I think you kind of have to start with a baseline. Okay, this is what I think is going to happen. Given what I think is going to happen, what educated guess, what changes do you need to make in your business to take advantage of this?
Yeah, really. And, Marc-Christian, you've spent a little bit of time thinking about that too. What do you think are some of the key things that people should be doing, during this difficult time in order to be able to improve the prospects of their future business going forward?
Definitely, I would recommend to use the time to look into resolving known issues, for example, in infrastructure. So if you have a big backlog in IT issues, I think that's the time where you should look at it. Looking about process efficiency improvements, like we discussed already. This is a time I think it's really best to spend time in this topic, because it will. That's what pays off later. As soon as operation starts again, you will see the fruits and you can harvest them. The other thing is, if you already look into your fleet, how your fleet looks like, and you have to make changes, I think that's also worth looking into commonality. Obviously, if you have different models, you're more flexible, and it might be also obviously worth thinking about it, having flexibility to adjust to different demand situations. While on the other hand, if you have too many options, then you will not be able to gain any of the possible benefits of these processes, because you have to have all the processes in place for every single aircraft type, maybe subtype, and it just eats up all the benefits you could have.
Yeah. Hey, Larry, what are your thoughts on that? What should people be doing out there right now in order to be able to focus on recovery?
Really great question, and there's probably a lot of great ideas of what people should be doing, but it is a great time to think about your tools and processes, and how can you be more efficient, and how are you going to make your workforce feel comfortable and safe, and what tools and processes are you going to use? And there's so many opportunities out there to implement new technology to really help this recovery be a lot faster.
Yeah, no question. I had a number of discussions this week with different CEOs that'll be on our program, coming up in the next coming weeks. And one of the CEOs told me, when I asked him that question, he said, focus. All right. And I said, what do you mean by focus? And he said, I have to look at the factors that are around me and what's changing. I need to focus on what's going to create success in my business. And Marc-Christian, you just said it, don't spread yourself too thin. Focus on the things which are going to be needed right now in order to be able to create success in your business, because something that's going to impact your business a year from now, if you can't survive until then, it's not going to make a difference. All right.
Mark, one thing we talk about a lot here is being positive, right? And I think that's so important, is that let's look forward. Let's be really positive about, we're going to come out of this and we're going to be strong and we're going to survive this. And I think we see some airlines not having that positive view, and others that have that really positive view.
And I think that really makes a big difference, because I've seen that. I've seen the ones that are coming out really positive, and that makes a big difference. It really instills confidence in people. And so, one of the things I keep saying to people is that my business will not be a casualty of this circumstances, right? I am going to figure out how to innovate and how to change and how to recraft and redesign my business so that we will be successful and come out the other end, successful. Hey guys, we've had some really great discussion here today, and we had some really good questions from people. And the rest of them out there, we're going to, comment online, and we'll address them, on LinkedIn. And I really want to thank everybody for coming out and watching the program today. We had really such a great, attendance. And, Marc-Christian, to have you on the show and to give a perspective of things that are happening in the UAE. I really appreciate that. Thank you for coming on. And I'm going to give the two of you just one last word. Larry, do you have anything else that you'd like to share at the end here, that can be enthusiastic and cause people to think about how do we drive toward recovery?
Well, we read so much gloom and doom in the newspaper every day. But ahead of that, there's so many opportunities to really come out of this as a stronger and different community within aviation, and we will.
Marc-Christian, how about you? What's your perspective on how do we drive recovery forward in these kind of circumstances?
I mean, what you said already is with, let's say, kind of a focus on what's really needed. And the other thing is, I think in this situation, also, I think it's a good opportunity to work together. So to use the situation to have exchanges with other airlines on how they deal with some issues, difficulties, on what solutions they have in place, and what experience they made to, let's say, save some time, save some money. We don't have this time and money right now in this luxury. But I think we all can learn from each other, and in this community, we really should act as a community and work together to overcome this situation.
Yeah. Hey, Marc-Christian, I know there's been some reductions in force, and there's been some changes in different businesses all over the world, and I know that you've just recently at the end of the month made the decision to move on and leave Etihad. What are you doing next?
In fact, I've stayed with Etihad roughly 7 years, so I'm now looking for a new kind of challenge within the UAE, ideally in let's say kind of a full-term contract. I mean, 7 years, so no, it's roughly 12 years. Looking at this industry from an airline perspective. I also, let's say, gained a little bit of curiosity to look from a different angle at this, maybe from a supplier or manufacturer side. So yeah, I'm open for widening my vision to get the full picture.
Fantastic. So if people are interested in reaching out to Marc-Christian and having a continued dialogue with him, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Ideally, I would say via LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Okay, great. And for the rest of you, if you want to get in touch with Larry or I, we're both on LinkedIn, and we can be reached there. You can do a search on hashtag DigitalAircraft, and you'll get all sorts of information about what we're doing here at DigitalAircraft. And also, if you'd like to reach out to me specifically, you can get a hold of me by email, and you can reach me at mark@digitalaircraft.org. So that wraps up our program today, and I want to thank both of you for joining us today, Marc-Christian and Larry.
Hey, thanks.
Thanks so much, Jamie.
Yeah,
all right, great. And I want to say to all of you, the way I close all of our programs, fair winds and following seas to you. We're going to drive recovery. It will be with our enthusiasm and our great ideas and our innovation that we will increase and accelerate the recovery within aviation. And I challenge all of you as leaders to be part of that, join in the conversation, and let's make this happen. Have a great day. Bye.